You know, it's humbling to consider myself amongst all the people that I see on these screens, all the various award winners in the past, and to look around and see you in the audience and to think that I can stand here today and be among you. It's humbling to be here and to be considered along with Nicole and what she has accomplished and the courage that she has. It's humbling to think of Roseanne DeMoro and everything that she has done, and for me to be able to stand here. Because when I think back, I think of how thankful that I am, how blessed I am to have been able to have people in my life that have been able to guide me down a path. Nobody who receives an award believes that when they started out they would ever get there. You start out by saying to yourself, I want to do the right thing. But you need people along that path to guide you and give you direction about what justice really means and what protecting people's rights really means. So I'm blessed because the first person that gave me that opportunity was a guy named Joe Cotchett. Now, you heard him. Joe is not shy. And I can just tell you that that interview didn't go probably like he described it, because when I left, I had beads of sweat dropping from my head, and I said, man, I don't know. Am I going to really be able to make it here? And I will tell you, this is the beauty of Joe Cotchett. He leads by actions. And what he did for me is to push me beyond my comfort zone. With Joe, there is no comfort zone. As soon as he sees a comfort zone, okay, time to charge it up. New challenge. And it's that constant challenge to be better than where you are, to be able to move to the next level, that he does not only with me, but with every single person in our office. That's the beauty of Joe Cotchett, and that's why I am thankful that he gave me that opportunity. But it doesn't stop there, because there was another individual by the name of Susan Ilston, now U.S. District Judge for the Northern District. And she taught me the value of thorough preparation, that you can never be over-prepared. I got to thank another guy named Neil McCarthy, and it pains me to say this. He taught me the value of Irish wit and creative thinking. We have kind of a joke between us of which culture did more for humanity, the Italians or the Irish, and it gets pretty humorous, but I'll give them that. I want to also thank all of the various people, my partners and my co-workers who are here tonight, because you show me every day when you bring your A game to work and your dedication and your passion, what it means to be lawyers who stand up for clients' causes. I thank you. I want to thank some of the great lawyers, many of you are here in this room, who always shared with me their strategies, their thoughts, their ideas on how to pursue justice on behalf of those whose voices were silenced and on behalf of those who were powerless. All of your work, all of your guidance helped to shape my ability to be able to do the work that we all do every day of the week on our clients' behalves, and I want to thank you. I want to thank my CAOC family. I mean, I got to tell you, the last few months I've had to deal with Sacramento and the legislators up there in dealing with a bill that should be a no-brainer in terms of holding utilities accountable, and I must tell you that the wisdom that I get from Leanne Tratton, Nancy Drabble, Nancy Peverini, in trying to navigate the chaos that exists up in Sacramento and the dysfunction, to be able to get a clear path to getting legislators to understand the true facts and not fake news. Finally, I want to thank my family. Joe's absolutely right. There's no way that I could be where I stand here today without them. And it starts with my mother and father. My father passed away about 25 years ago. But the both of them gave me two things that I would need for the rest of my life, and that is, first, a work ethic, but second and most importantly, an understanding of respect for people and why that's so important. I have three wonderful daughters, and they're here with me tonight. They inspire me because I see the women they have become, their character, and their success, all based on hard work and an understanding of compassion for others. I want to thank my extended family that's here because, my mother-in-law always says it takes a village. She loves that saying. And, for me, if it's based on how much love is in that village, it's a metropolis that is part of my village. Finally, my wife, Diane, I'm the luckiest man alive. And I think that says it all. I love you, and I want to thank you for all of the understanding and support that you have given me, for the missed dinners, the vacations that got postponed, sometimes missed, the family events, but she was always there because she understood that the reason that I was gone is because I truly was engrossed in trying to make sure that a case was well prepared, an argument was done, or a deposition was taken to make sure that people didn't get away with lies. The one thing that confounded me about this award is the word lifetime achievement. Because you wonder, what do people know that I don't? As far as I'm concerned, I still got a lot of work to do. And the reason that I have a lot of work to do is because for the past 7 years, I've had to meet people over and over that have been the victims of tragedy. And I always ask myself why. I met a woman named Sue Bullis. Her life was turned upside down when an explosion occurred September 9th of 2010, when a gas transmission line exploded and a towering inferno surrounded the community of Crestmore in San Bruno. She lost her husband, her son, and her mother-in-law. They burned to death trying to escape, and all that was found were fragments of bone among the rubble of a destroyed home. How do you console people like that? I next met 5 years later to the day, September 9, 2015, a man by the name of Brian Wycombe, 75 years old, whose house was destroyed by fire in Calaveras County as a result of the Butte fire. Brian's home had been part of 3 generations. He explained to me that in those 3 generations, the way the house was built is that stones from a river on the property were used to build a fireplace. The wood on the floors came from trees on his land that had been cut and placed and built by his father and grandmother. He describes it as the home where he learned to be a man because his grandfather taught him how to work with his hands in the shed that was now destroyed. 2 years later, October 8th, 2017, I met Greg and Christina Wilson. Greg and Christina woke up surrounded by flames, ran to try to protect themselves, found fire all around them, and the only thing they could do was jump in a swimming pool and hide there, remaining underwater for hours until help had arrived. They were badly burned, their lungs were scarred, they could not speak. What's the common thread? The common thread was a company by the name of PG&E. I spent the better part of 7 years, along with many of the lawyers that are in this room, digging into the tragedy called PG&E. The CPUC didn't get it all. The NTSB didn't get it all. But after 60 depositions, you start to find out what really happened there. You got to something called the root cause. PG&E likes to say that the only reason for the San Bruno explosion was that there was a missing weld in a pipeline when they laid it in the ground some 56 years earlier. The truth was that that pipe had never been tested the way that it was supposed to be tested, which would have revealed the missing weld. The truth was is that PG&E never had any adequate records about what they ever placed underground, and they didn't know that really what they had underground were 6 small pieces of pipe that had been cobbled together, a violation. What they didn't know is that PG&E, instead of adhering to pipeline safety standards, found every way they can to game the system and circumvent those standards. What we found is that PG&E lied to the NTSB. They were convicted of 6 felonies, including lying to the NTSB. That's PG&E. In the Butte fire that took the home of Brian Wycombe, what we found is that PG liked to say, well, it was just a tree that fell on some wires and sparked a fire. Again, working with many lawyers who are in this room, and after taking about 40 depositions, what we found out is that PG&E, in order to maintain their bottom line on profits, started to cut their budgets for vegetation management. You see, the whole idea of preventing wildfires is to inspect and to make sure that hazard trees are removed that are too close to electrical distribution lines. And that takes trained and qualified people to go out and find those trees. Well, what we found out is that PG&E, to cut corners, started circumventing people's qualifications and didn't care about whether or not training was actually done. They hired dog groomers to go out and inspect trees for hazards. They incentivized, by virtue of their bonus program, cutting down less trees as opposed to the trees that were required. They abdicated their responsibilities to the public in ensuring the safe delivery of electricity. So, in October of 2017, when the North Bay fires happened, and subsequent to that, as we know here in Southern California, the Thomas Fire that ravaged both Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, the utilities, unbeknownst to many of us, went out and started secretly lobbying Sacramento. And they met with legislators in January before any reports had ever been issued as to what went wrong and why. And what they sought was to shield themselves from liability. What they sought is to protect shareholder profits and to shift responsibility for their mismanagement onto the shoulders of taxpayers, ratepayers, and those who have to climb out of the rubble. When we found out we'd gathered together, and as Joe mentioned, the battles shifted from the courtroom into Sacramento. And they shifted in a way that, to me, was appalling. They would go to legislators and provide them with misinformation about what happened both in the San Bruno fires and in the Butte fires. They would provide and threaten that they would go bankrupt, God forbid, if you didn't change liability laws to give them a get-out-of-jail-free pass. They went to legislators and told them that this was all the result of climate change, and therefore they should be excused, and the burdens shifted. Well, here are the facts. The facts are that this is a company that refuses to acknowledge responsibility for their own mismanagement of the monopoly that they have been granted to eliminate competition in the delivery of electrical services and to earn monopoly profits. They want that, but they don't want to accept the liability when their mismanagement creates a catastrophic event, and people have to be educated. And you have to educate them over and over. What I can tell you is this: we cannot allow a morally corrupt corporation and utilities to continue to dodge responsibility for their mismanagement, their abdication of responsibility for the safe delivery of energy into California, and to blame laws that are too harsh, as opposed to looking within themselves, clawing back the executive bonuses that have been paid, and rectifying their own mismanagement and decisions that are made by executives who care more about profits than safety. The law is not a scapegoat, and I do not want to continue to console people like Sue Bullis, Brian Wycombe, and Greg and Christina Wilson. We need to prevent these tragedies from happening again, and it takes all of us in this room to be able to do that. My work is not done. It will not be done until I can make sure that those who are responsible for the latest tragedies stand accountable. I want to thank you for listening, and thank you for this award.